I am talking to Dick Prouty, co-chair of Town Green 2025. Good afternoon, Dick. How are you?
Hi, Heather. I'm great. How are you?
I'm great. Just for those who do not know, could you introduce us to Town Green 2025 and the mission there?
Sure. Our mission is to create a carbon neutral and resilient community for Cape Ann. The 2025 comes from conversations we had in 2015 when we first started this program, that we wanted to have a goal that caught people's attention. So our goal, which Candace Wheeler at that time on the steering committee said, Dick, that's very much poetry. Our goal was to do this in 10 years. And here we are 5 years in. We've accomplished a lot, but we have a lot longer to go. But I think recent events have indicated that, it's not completely out of the question that we might achieve or come very close to our goal, because there are some very big state and federal initiatives upcoming that will be, we believe, enable a lot of carbon reduction and pollution in the air.
And what have you accomplished in 5 years?
Well, we don't have a metric on it yet, but we've basically had some large campaigns for energy efficiency in partnership with the city. We have had a large solar campaign where we have rooftop solar, and we've done a lot of education work. But the big number reductions are coming in things like municipal aggregation, which and we also participate in helping the city publicize that. Municipal aggregation allows a higher percentage of clean electricity to come in for everybody unless they opt out. So that's the single biggest thing we can do, is to go to, as soon as possible, 100% clean electrical energy. And that's the goal of Town Green right now, working with, Candace is working hard on that within the coalition as well.
When you say municipal aggregation, are you talking about the national grid message that I get, that I have a choice to go to 100% clean energy, or are you talking about the cities are using 100% clean energy?
It's the city has an option, and I think it's the city. You have to log on and go through the city process to get their 100%, which is clean, 100% local clean energy. The national grid 100% is not all within New England.
Okay.
That's a little less, it has less subsidies for localized clean energy production by solar or wind.
Okay. All right. So, and there's more of this on the Town Green 2025 website, right? Great.
Right, of course.
Well, and we want to talk today about this webinar series you have coming up. And the first one is tomorrow, May 21st, right?
Yes. So this whole series, it's 4 Thursdays in a row at 3 p.m. First one's tomorrow with Ken Kimmel. So the origin of why we are doing this is because these speakers were all lined up to be at a live event on April 18th in the Meeting House in the afternoon. And the event was going to be called the Cape Ann Climate Solutions Forum. And that event was obviously postponed because of COVID. Everything was shut down right away. And we began thinking, what can we do? And there was a debate about, should we wait to go live in the fall, or should we try to have it sooner? And we came down on going for a webinar series, first because the timing was better. It was better for some of the participants on the call. And it was also, I think, evident that we couldn't be sure that we'd be able to have a live event in September. Mm. Well, I don't think we're still sure, even though we have Governor Baker's 4 stages. It's not apparent to me that we'll be able to have live events, a couple hundred people inside the Meeting House in September. If I had to bet, I would say no. Right. So I think we made the right choice. And we have these 4 series coming up. And the first one is Ken Kimmel. Ken Kimmel is the president of the Union of Concerned Scientists. And he's going to speak on something that he's actually been speaking to quite a bit, which is lessons from the COVID crisis that we can apply to the climate crisis. And I'm looking very much forward to this. And one of the concerns that our Town Green Steering Committee had from the beginning was, will people come to the April 18th event when, or whatever we do as a follow-up, if because of COVID now, and when we started talking about alternatives? And I think having the title be related to COVID will draw people. And we have a lot of enrollees right away. We're, I think, 60, 65 already. We got another day to go to register, and a lot of people come in at the last minute.
Mm-hmm.
So we're very much looking forward to his lessons, and I'm personally looking forward to it.
Mm-hmm. Well, we were talking earlier about that amazing statistic that was released on Tuesday. Do you want to talk about that and how relevant it will be to Ken's talk?
Sure. There was a press release that about 17% of global emissions have been reduced since the COVID crisis shut the world down. And I think, the beyond the statistic, it's the fact that everybody has realized how much pollution is affecting their lives, how clean the skies are, how many stars they can see at night. And there have been photos of places like Mumbai and Beijing where you can see a pre-photo of the city from afar, and then pre and post COVID. And with COVID, you can actually see the buildings as in all the outlines with no haze and so forth. So I think it's a big reminder of what the goal could be if we were to get to 100% clean for the world within our lifetimes. It's a big goal, but we can certainly get a long way there and have to have a future for the Earth.
And I understand that drop in carbon emissions was the largest anyone has ever seen in a year.
Certainly. It's the largest in history. Yeah. There's been some small drops with hurricanes and things like that in the hurricane season because of shutdowns, but this is the first worldwide shutdown in our lifetime. And to have it go on now for 2 months, and the forecast for opening up all over the world nobody is forecasting that we're going back to normal anytime soon in terms of emissions. So there'll be a substantial reduction. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm sure Ken will talk about that tomorrow, and the urgency of reductions that was put out by the IPCC October 2019 report that said we have to really drastically reduce in the next 10 years our emissions. And he's going to be getting into that. We have a small window now, 10 years, to reduce emissions if we're going to avoid the worst prospects for climate change.
So do you want to talk about the other speakers you will have in the following series?
Yeah. So number 2 is going to be Larry Cretion. Larry's the executive director of the Green Energy Consumers Alliance. It's a 20-year-old organization, and they do a number of things, and he's going to talk about their organization. One of the things they do is lobby the State House for clean energy policies, and they're very much policy-oriented. What should be our policy for green municipal aggregation is one of the big programs. What should be our policy for promoting electric vehicles? But they also have programs that are aimed at local and regional and state level to give people an idea about what the policies will mean. So if you can get a electric vehicle for 30% off, which the Energy Consumers Alliance was really responsible for doing in the past year, then you can really get an electric vehicle and see for yourself how much less expensive it is, how there's no maintenance and so forth. So he's going to talk about the big picture, lobbying, and the two main programs they have for Drive Green and municipal aggregation, which I discussed earlier.
Right.
Now, he's also going to talk about another topic that came out when I was interviewing him about this, which is DEI, which is diversity, an acronym for diversity, equity, and inclusion. And this has come up in the sense that the critics of government programs, including clean energy programs, have been looking at nonprofits in the state as not having enough focus on these 3 processes. And so he has made and he's going to tell us about how his organization has both tried to walk the talk personally and also lobbied the state. And he has a person on his staff who is a woman who's the chair of the state advisory committee to the governor on DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion.
That's really interesting because I know that there's been a national conversation about how climate change impacts communities of color,
Yes.
very specifically. Yeah, that will be really interesting. And
Right.
number 3?
Number 3 is Natasha Lamb, who's a principal of Arjuna Capital. Arjuna Capital is a national wealth investing company targeting high net worth individuals. But they also have, and Natasha's focuses a lot on advising endowments and pensions, usually at the large level, the large national level, on how they can go to be carbon neutral in their investments. And how can they reduce their carbon footprint by having cleaner investments? And that's a big topic because we're discovering how a lot of our footprint, as the fourth speaker will speak to personally, is involved in our investments in that subsidize fossil fuel industries. Mm. So a lot of the big banks have a lot of their money-making investments in loans to places like Shell and Chase and so forth, Citibank. So these people are going to be held to account. Mm-hmm. Now, Natasha's going to talk about how she advises these endowments about what they should do and how she advises individuals, whether high net worth or not, how to make better investments that can reduce their carbon footprint as a result of their investments.
Well, that will be really illuminating, I think, for a lot of people.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's
one that hasn't been publicized until recently, but I think that it's going to be eye-opening. Mm-hmm. And then Denny Dart, the fourth speaker, is she's an environmental engineer and a community activist. And on her own, she was looking at a particularly new program about how you compute your carbon footprint. And this has been going on for a decade, but this one is only about a year old. Mm. And she discovered that 20% of her personal carbon footprint, which is 15 tons total per year, but 20% of that was her investments in her credit cards and her personal investments.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So this is going to be news to a lot of people. And I think that she then went on to really dive into this and has discovered a lot of the detail, what credit cards are good, what credit cards are not good, and the programs that are going on to not just make a silent cutting of your card or severing a relationship with a bank that has a credit card, but also doing it in such a way to make a statement with others so that they will take notice and perhaps begin to change their investment policies.
That is super interesting. And will she talk about is there some sort of formula for figuring out your carbon footprint?
Yes, she has she's going to go over that okay. methodology that she used so that people can, draw it up online, probably during the talk with her and figure it out right away. It doesn't take that long. Yeah. You have to do some personal research, but perhaps not that day, but there's going to be a tutorial on her during her webinar. And she's also going to talk about the bigger picture of how we can influence divestment. So it's related to what Natasha's going to talk about, but it's more on the personal and local level.
Right, really interesting. So how can people sign up, Dick?
Well, you can go to our website and there's a link and you can register for Ken's talk tomorrow. You can do that up until noon tomorrow, and we'll send you a link and you'll just be led on to the webinar. And then beginning Friday, we're going to be, doing Larry's registration and so forth. I think we're going to give everybody the ability to sign up for all 4 of them this weekend, but we wanted to start off to see how this one went.
Wonderful. And who are you trying to talk to? Who's your audience here?
Well, I think all concerned citizens of Cape Ann, but we're going to have people from beyond. I think we did allow 350.org and other activist organizations to publicize to their North Shore list. So we'll probably have some people from beyond Cape Ann, but we're hoping that concerned people with climate change will attend. And we use our own list. We use the Gloucester Meeting House Foundation, which is the parent organization of Town Green, the 501c3. They have a 550 name list. And we have 155 people who've attended one of our coalition meetings, which is large group meetings and now small work groups that are working with many organizations, not just Town Green, to lower the carbon footprint and make us a adapted and resilient community. So we've definitely gotten the word out.
Great. Well, I have signed up. I look forward to listening tomorrow.
I saw that come across, all the signups come across my email, so I saw your name.
Oh, you did?
Yes, thank you.
Who knew that? So anyway, I look forward to Ken Kimmel tomorrow, and hopefully I can make the rest of them too.
Wonderful.
But, yeah, it's a great program. So thank you so much for talking to us today.
Nice to spend some time with you, Heather.
Likewise. Take care.
Bye.